The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good back. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Phixated podcast. I am your host, Mike Azzolina, and I'm joined by a guy who is ready to talk. Regzy Boo. You ready?
Oh my God. Been ready for so long.
3-21 in their last 24 games. I'm ready to talk about, some
I have
Sixers
so many
basketball.
Quentin Grimes takes. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You've
I
got
got,
no idea.
I've got Tank takes. I got Cooper Flag takes.
I got
I
Yabusele
Rutgers
opinions.
basketball
Yeah.
takes. All of it.
All
We
the
got
things.
all of Nick Nurse conversations. We kid. It is opening day all day here on the Phixated podcast. Tomorrow begins the beautiful season of Major League Baseball. At 4:05, the Philadelphia Phillies will take the field for the first time of 162 plus games of a beautiful sports journey. And we are here to kick it off with all of you tonight. Regs, your excitement level, if you were like a cell phone battery, your excitement level on that cell phone battery is what right now?
Yeah, I might be overheating. There might be the alert that, temperature warning. It's too hot. Too hot.
Cannot charge.
Yeah.
I think I'm like 82, and here's why. I've been so excited all day today
That's true.
that I have burned a little bit of battery. I've found ways to charge up. This conversation we're about to play for you has definitely charged me back up a little bit. But there's also the scrolling anxiety.
Yeah,
Like you get anxious,
sure.
you scroll. And that's where I am about this baseball season, man. Like I know that this team is not going to look the same in 2026. And my brother said that to me today. He's like, well, when Aiden Miller comes, and I was like, I can't think about that right now. Because this is a group of baseball players that I love watching. And I know that this could be the beginning of the end of that, right? So JT Realmuto, contract year. Kyle Schwarber, contract year. Jose Alvarado with a team option year. Matt Strahm with a team option. Multiple guys on this team that we love. Alec Boehm was almost traded this year. Brandon Marsh kind of on the block in terms of what the organization thinks of him versus younger players. Nick Castellanos, all these guys, right? So there's anxiety in this season. There's excitement and anxiety, right?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. It could be a very different looking baseball team depending on how this season goes. It's not something we're obviously talking about too much right now. Because as you'll hear, like you said in the conversation, I am putting as much positive juju out in the world as one man can. But yeah, it's a good point that I'm refusing to think about for the next little while. Because like you said, I want this group of guys to do it. I think we're at the point almost with that 2017 Eagles team where there were so many guys on it that we just cared about and liked. And you're just like, they have to get one, right? Like they gotta get something. And we're just at that point with this group that I know people talk about the slowly declining playoff appearances, but then you could also say they also have won more games in the regular season each year. It's a weird dynamic that's going on. I think all these guys feel the pressure of it. And it's like, say what you will about what people think of the team, it's still the expectation of this group of guys. And we're all dying for it. Like whatever some dumb sports radio caller is going to say, we're all dying for it for this team and this group of guys.
It is always exciting when you get to this point. You know, we were fortunate enough to have a football team that carried us long enough that we didn't have to care about the shitty basketball team. And now we're on the precipice of opening day. And adult Azzy, 38-year-old Azzy, still gets as excited about opening day as 8-year-old, 18-year-old, 28-year-old Azzy got. I'm so pumped for tomorrow that I don't know how I'm going to sit and function throughout my work day and get to the point where first pitch is thrown.
Mm-hmm.
We have a great conversation here. We brought on a friend of the show, Brian Hamilton, to talk to us about the prospects, to talk to us about this season. So he's going to take us through some prospect conversation. He's going to take us through, or we're going to take him through, he and Regz, through a lightning round type of thing where I ask them questions. They don't know what's coming. It's funny. I got the idea from Brian last night. He sent me sort of like, I sat down and did my own little predictions of the Phillies season. And I was like, this could be a fun little exercise. So I took some of what he said last night and put it into this, and I made up some of my own for you guys to have to answer. I haven't told either one of you what I'm asking. And well, I hadn't. We've already done that part, but I'm excited to listen back and sort of watch back and watch your faces as I say it, because some of them are a little off the wall as we move along. So I don't know, Regz. I got nothing else. I think we'll jump into the conversation.
Yeah, let's get to it.
All right, it is with great joy and excitement on this opening day eve that we get to bring in good friend of ours and good friend of the Phixated podcast in general, Brian Doc Hamilton. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
We're living the dream over here.
It's the night before opening day. That's right.
Christmas Eve, guys. Christmas Eve.
I still hate that the Friday has no baseball.
Yeah.
I hate it. Why are you doing this to me, baseball? Why do you continue? I know that for weather purposes, but like having nothing on Friday is the biggest. It's terrible. I hate it. I hate it. You get me going so much for Thursday, and then you just rip it all back on Friday.
Especially if they lose, because then you got to stew on it for 2 days before you get another game.
Can't believe we blew the Wheeler start. Come on.
It's not going to happen.
It hurts so much, and there have been so many times. No, there have been so many times where you lose that opening day game, and you like everybody is so upset about it. I constantly use the reminder of like, if this were a game in mid-July, 90% of the people upset about it don't even care because they don't know the Phillies are playing today. Right? So it's like, just breathe, everyone. It's opening day. It's 1 of 162. I know the pomp and circumstance makes it hard, but it's 1 of 162. You know, it's one of those things. But Brian, we got a lot we want to get to with you tonight. We so appreciate your knowledge of Phillies baseball, specifically your knowledge of Phillies prospects and the farm system. So as we go into this season, and probably the most excited as a fan base we've been about the farm system, we do want to dig in a little bit here, deeper than the Andrew Painters, deeper than the Justin Crawfords, than the Aiden Millers, right? We want to go deeper into the system and find out from you, who are the names that Phillies fans need to be watching this year that maybe we don't know about yet. So I have a few questions that I want to talk to you about, and then we're going to dive into this Phillies team with a little bit of like a lightning round type game with you and Regz. Okay, so let's dive in. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So talk to us about a prospect, Brian, that we don't know about at this point, but we should know about.
Okay. Well, I think we have a pretty knowledgeable audience here, so I'm going to venture guess that we at least know something about this guy, but I do want to talk about him a little bit, and that is Moises Chasse. Moises Chasse was a pitcher that was acquired by the Phillies at the trade deadline last year from the Orioles in the deal that sent Gregory Soto down to Baltimore. They also got Seth Johnson in the deal, and ex-Philly Austin Hayes, our boy Austin Hayes, who I think is at Cincinnati there, I believe, is where he wound up, right? But I think Moises Chasse is probably going to turn out to be the best haul from that trade, and someone that we want to keep an eye on. He is currently the Phillies' 5th-ranked prospect, according to MLB Pipeline, and so he. When he was acquired from Baltimore, Baltimore had him at high Class A, and they were kind of piggybacking him to where he would basically pitch 3 and 4 innings each appearance, and then bring in a reliever, pretty much no matter how many pitches he had thrown or whatever. They had him on that piggyback system. But when he came to the Phillies, they stretched him out, and they thought they saw starter potential in him, and so they stretched him out to 6 innings. And they were delighted with his stuff. First of all, he throws mid to even touching upper 90s heat, for example. He's got a really good arm, and in his second to last start of the season last year with Reading, they actually promoted him to Double-A at the end of the season, and he's still only 21 years old, but in his second to last start, he threw 6 innings and struck out 13. And he allowed 1 hit and no runs in that start. So that was just kind of a flash of what he might be capable of going forward. And I expect him to start this season at Double-A. Again, he's just 21 years old, and they are a little bit backed up at the AAA level with the likes of Abel and Seth Johnson, a couple other minor league free agent types that they have for depth. But I think long-term, Moises Chasse, maybe by the end of this season or certainly 2026, could be a guy that's knocking on the door of the Phillies rotation.
A quick follow-up to that, it feels like in watching him this spring, at least the starts appearances we got to check out, they were taking the Chris Sanchez approach with him. Lower velocity for more control. Is that something that you feel like the organization is trying with him? Is that just it was spring? What a mix of bag of all of that? What do you think, Brian?
I think that's very possible. I know how important that they value fastball command. When you listen to interviews with guys like Caleb Cotham, for example, they have a new minor league pitching coordinator now, whose name is escaping me at the moment. But he is somebody who will sing a similar tune, so to speak, because they do have that kind of consistency of philosophy, from the major league level down, to the minor league level, and what they want to teach, which is really important. You need to have that continuity in coaching between the minor and major leagues, and so emphasizing fastball command, I think is something that they're going to want to do with Chasse. And another guy like Mick Abel, for example, it's huge. And I think, it's great if you throw 97 miles an hour, but if you put it right down the middle of the plate, major league hitters are going to crush it more often than not, right? So they want to be sure that he can cut the plate into thirds, for example, and work both sides of the plate with his fastball, and then pitch off of that. So again, 21 years old, good arm, but they're gonna want him to refine that command and control, and also some of the other finer points of pitching too before they promote him further.
Do you think that's also maybe a part of that stretching out process? You got to think that maybe dialing it back a little bit allows him to get an extra inning and a half or something like that, right? Don't come in, just go all out while we're trying to get you used to more and more pitches and seeing more batters and things like that. I wonder, I would imagine it's sort of all part of the same plan, But, the Phillies' philosophy, as you talked about, is not only that command stuff for the fastball, but it's also they want their starters to be 6-7 inning guys, not just you come in and you flash for 4.5, 5 innings, and then we got to run through our bullpen every night.
Yeah, that's certainly right. You remember a few years ago when Spencer Howard was the Phillies' top pitching prospect, and he had this thing where he would come out and throw 97, 98 miles an hour for maybe 2 innings. And then by the third and fourth inning, he's 92, 93 and starting to get hit and lose command. And you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And they never really figured it out. And I don't really think it's worked out for him wherever he's been either. But yeah, I think that's part of it. They want to see these guys maintain their stuff for 80, 90, maybe even 100 pitches. So yeah, I think that's a good point, Regz.
So with Chase being that guy that we might not know but should know, and as we navigate his season, there are going to be guys that we don't even know exist yet. Like you talked about, we got a smart audience here. People know Moises Chase, but who is a guy that we're gonna know about soon? Like it's gonna be quick. We're gonna hear this name, and it's gonna be one that resonates with every Phillies fan.
Okay, you asked me a similar question 2 or 3 years ago, actually, and I brought up Johan Rojas, and I don't know if I can. I don't know. You might remember that. I don't know if I can quite live up to that because Rojas went up a couple levels and made the Phillies and was starting playoff games and all that stuff. So that this guy probably won't quite be able to do that. But I'm going to give you Arun Escobar as this guy, okay? And I think he did get a little bit of a cup of coffee in spring training in some of the Grapefruit League games. Had at least one RBI double that I can recall in one of the games. But Escobar is 20 years old. He's an infielder that they signed out of, I believe he's Venezuelan. So he came to the States for the first time last year and played in the Florida Complex League, down in Clearwater, the Carpenter Complex. Only played about 20-25 games because he was suffering from shin splints and they shut him down. Kind of a weird thing, for a baseball player, right? We're not running marathons typically.
Too many poles or something like, yeah.
So I'm not sure what
cross country injury.
So I'm not sure what went on there, but in his very small sample, he hit 338 with a 495 on base percentage, and that'll play, right? But it's not only the people that watched him down there, from the Phillies and from other teams, thought that it was real what they were seeing in terms of a guy who was going to have the ability to hit, a guy that just knows what he's doing up at the plate, makes good contact, hits the ball hard, barrels it up, and they see a guy who can pretty quickly move up the ranks. He is the I believe he is the. I'm looking at his ranking now at MLB Pipeline. I don't have it in front of me. I think it might be in the teens actually, but some evaluators see him as a guy that could crack the top 100 prospects in all of baseball this year. That they see a breakout potential there where he might be able to do that, and he's going to start in Clearwater with the Threshers, and so we'll be able to follow him on a daily basis and see if he's able to take that sample from last year in the Complex League up to the low Class A level and beyond. Hopefully, he is seen as probably a second baseman defensively. Has played some third as well. I think they gave him a little look at third base during spring training, but he's going to go. Sounds like a guy that's going to go as far as his bat takes him, and so that's a name to watch as far as someone that might break out this year.
Yeah, they have him 13th right
so
now.
he is 13th on
13th,
MLB
okay.
Pipeline. I've texted both of you separately with just his name written in capital letters during spring training. That double and home run that he hit this spring, you can see that there's true potential in that bat. I know Jack Fritz, friend of the show, Jack Fritz, has compared him to he's called him the right-handed Jose Ramirez on the
Yeah.
High Hopes podcast, which is high praise. I mean, Jose Ramirez is a top 5 player in baseball, right? So like that is high praise. And certainly it'd be nice to see that kind of a rise out of a kid, but there the potential that you see in him, I love the way you phrased it, that the bat will take him as far as he's going to go. We saw some highlights with the glove. He started one of the better double plays I saw all spring, maybe in my lifetime, with he and Aiden Miller up the middle. In one of I don't think it was the prospect game. I think it was late in the game where they subbed in, but he made a diving play in the hole, turned, fired to Miller, and Miller had a quick exchange. Now, I don't know when we'll see the two of them. It's going to be a good bit of time, but it was a cool glimpse, right, into what the potential is. And then he followed it with a home run the next inning. So we'll keep an eye on Arun Escobar for sure. And which leads us sort of this last question, because he's further away, and we know
Yes.
that we're not seeing Arun Escobar for quite some time. And I appreciate you being clear on that. And I just want to repeat that for fans. Brian's talking about a guy that could take a rise, a guy that evaluators might see jumping into a top 100 or two throughout the season. But there are also guys that are close, right? And we know about the Andrew Painters. We know about the Justin Crawfords. We know about the Aiden Millers. We now know about Moises Chassé. But I think, who is a guy that, besides those 4 names that we'll see in the next year or two, right? Who's a guy this year who could come up and make an impact on the major league roster, in your opinion?
Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of names. I'm going to give you one pitcher and one position player. Now, I wish I could tell you that the pitcher was going to be Mick Abel, but that is not the way I'm going to go here. I'm starting to have some concerns about him and whether it's ever going to come together for the former first-round pick in 2020, I believe it was. I wish I could say it's him, but I can't. So if you'll allow me a small cheat here, as far as someone that did actually make their major league debut last year, it was Seth Johnson. And so he pitched 1 game for the Phillies last year in Miami. We know that it did not go well, but I think that Seth Johnson is a candidate to get a little bit of a longer look this year. Now, he is a guy that is, a depth piece right now as far as the rotation is concerned. We know who their starting 5 is. We already have Ranger down, unfortunately, for, we don't know how long. And we have Lord help us, Taijuan Walker taking his place in the rotation. And we don't know how long that's going to last either, based on his effectiveness. So beyond Taijuan Walker, I think they're going to hold off on Andrew Painter for a while. That's been pretty well documented. And we may talk about that a little bit later. But I think Seth Johnson might be pretty close to next in line after Taijuan Walker. Especially with the trade of Tyler Phillips today. He's another guy that might have been in line. So Seth Johnson is, as we mentioned before, with Moises Chassé, he's another one of the guys that came from the Orioles in the Gregory Soto deal last year. He's a guy that was fairly well thought of as a prospect in the Orioles system. Had some injury problems in the O's organization, Tommy John surgery. At one point, and so he's a Tommy John graduate, if you will, and but so last year was really his first full year back from the injury, and sometimes that it takes that 1 year to kind of get your command actually, just where you want it to be in terms of that recovery process. The raw stuff may be there, but kind of refining that command is really the last step in terms of making that full recovery. And so he will start the season in the AAA rotation. And I believe that he is going to get some opportunities to start games this year for the Phillies, because we know that you need 9 or 10 starters in order to get through most seasons. And I think he's going to be one of those guys. Want me to
Yeah,
go on to the
well, I quickly want to respond to Seth and
Sure.
then go to your bet.
Okay.
I this was a kid I was really excited about last year. I talked to a couple of Orioles fans that I'm close with who were pretty upset about trading him. And I remember that start in Miami. I was actually listening to it on the radio, and you felt more badly for the kid than angry at the kid, right? Because it was, that first start. And certainly I remember Fransky saying you got a mixed bag of nerves with this idea of like he's still not fully out of like that Tommy John like you just talked about. And now there's probably a little more confidence. There's a little bit more to him than I think we realize as a fan base, because he is so new to the organization. So I was kind of hoping you said him. There, like, I was wondering if it was going to be Abel or Johnson, and I'm glad you went with Seth. So good, that puts me in a good place, because I do anticipate seeing him this year. And I'm happy that you feel the way you do about him. So talk to us about the bat. I have my guesses here, but I'm curious to who you go with.
Okay. Well, there are a couple of ways that you can go with the bat, I think. I am going to choose a guy who might be a little bit off the radar, and that is Otto Kemp. Okay.
Okay. I was thinking Rincones. You got me on that one. Talk to us about Otto Kemp.
Well, Rincones is certainly on the list. Okay, and he may be a guy that's just an injury away, for example, from getting opportunity if he gets off to a good start in AAA. Because I think he definitely flashed some, from some pretty exciting ability this spring in terms of his power. But Otto Kemp is a kind of an under the radar guy, and has been for pretty much his whole career, because he was a non-drafted free agent signed by the Phillies in 2022. He was never really regarded as a top prospect coming out of college. He's currently 25 years old, but all this guy has done since he's been in the organization is play and produce and just do it in a way that the Phillies organization loves. For example, he won the Larry Rojas Award this spring, and I believe that they have 2 of them. And I believe that's an award that just basically is a nod to a guy's professionalism and approach, the way that they play the game in spring training. So that's gotten him some eyes as well. But he went through 3 levels of the organization last year. He started at Jersey Shore with the Blue Claws, so I became pretty familiar with him, living close by to the Blue Claws. And I'm telling you, all he did was hit for the Blue Claws and get on base and play any position that you asked him to. And so he wound up hitting .333 with a .440 on base at Jersey Shore. And he was just the guy that you wanted up, when they needed a hit. You knew that he was going to give you a good at bat and do something. He just had that knack about him. Guy that was probably, a 2-hole hitter type, put the bat on the ball, and if you needed base hit to right field, there it was. Kind of guy. Just had that knack. So they promoted him to Reading. He hit .258, but a .353 on base percentage. So, here's a guy that sees pitches, and takes some walks. He had about 60 walks last year and 400 some odd at bats. So, pretty decent walk rate. A guy, a little over 100 strikeouts. So, but a guy that was working deep counts and taking his walks and getting his base hits and keeping the lineup moving and doing it playing multiple positions. And he did get a cup of coffee in AAA last year as well at the end of the season. So, I think he's not a guy that's going to knock your socks off in terms of the power, like maybe a Rincones, or he doesn't have the speed of a Rojas or a Justin Crawford or anything like that. So he's not like a big tools guy, but he's just a guy that does a little bit of everything and can do everything well, and a guy that can help you, almost like a Buddy Kennedy type, if you think about it. Buddy Kennedy is not probably not gonna. He may be traded any day now, maybe tomorrow. But those guys can help you win games. And Buddy Kennedy did that for the Phillies last year. A guy like Cody Clemens has done that. So he doesn't really project as an everyday player. I don't see any room for him in the organization in that way. But a guy that could be a helpful utility guy that may help them win some games this season, Otto Kemp.
I love that. I love it. And he's such an Azzy guy because I value so much the player that can work a count, can get on base. So when you're saying like that 400 OBP or 350 OBP, like that's the type of guy I love to watch play. And Buddy Kennedy is a guy we've talked about quite a bit this offseason as we've gotten closer to spring ending. We've talked a lot about, man, losing a guy like Buddy. It stinks because he did have moments last year, and who's going to fill that void, especially with Wilson down? Who's that person going to be? And it'll take time. Those guys didn't come up until August last year, right? So Otto Kemp's a really solid pick by you for this question because the flashy names, and we're going to talk about the Painters and the Crawfords here in this next segment. We expect to see them. The guys like Otto Kemp, we don't expect to see, but we're going to need to see because that's a real test of depth. And Otto Kemp could make a real difference for this team in an August game where, that's part of the lineup. I mean, I was at a game last year. It was against the Mets and the Phillies were down 1-0. Sanchez was throwing an absolute gem. And Weston Wilson led off an inning with a double. And up comes Buddy Kennedy and rips a double into the left field corner to tie the game.
Yeah.
And I don't think they went ahead in that inning. I think they won it in extras when Real Muto singled off of Diaz. But like they needed Weston Wilson and Buddy Kennedy to win that game. And later in September, they needed Cal Stevenson and Buddy Kennedy to win a game. So like those things have to happen in order for you to experience success. And I appreciate a guy like Buddy Kennedy being brought to the table, Brian. That's a really cool choice there. So looking forward to seeing him. Looking forward to seeing and hearing about all these guys as we get into the season.
Well, I think
so.
Great point. And I think there's greater than a 50-50 chance you'll see Otto Kemp up at some point this season. And hopefully he helps the Phillies win a couple games.
I hope so. And with that being said, let's talk about this Phillies team a little bit more. We're going to do a little lightning round with Brian and Regz. And I'm going to go through a series of just like, what's it going to be this year? And they're going to give me an answer. So I might say like, who leads the team in this? Or when will this guy show up? Or, how many wins will they have? Those types of questions. And they're going to have to answer off the top of their head. We're gonna speed through about 14. If you want to give a little explanation after your answer as to why, go for it. But we're gonna work our way pretty quickly through 14 of these. So I'm gonna start right here, and Regz, we'll start with you on this one. I think we'll just go that way. We'll just keep it in the same order. I might add my 2 cents, but I know, so it's kind of cheating. Regz, who will lead the Philadelphia Phillies in batting average in 2025?
I'm saying this to manifest this for this whole team and this person. Trey Turner.
Brian, who you got?
Yeah. They say great minds think alike.
Yes,
my
Brian.
answer is Trey Turner.
More good juju. Just put it all out there. I believe in juju.
I wrote down 288 for Trey Turner. So hey, Regz, what do you give me an average? What do you got?
I want like 315. I'm going. If I'm going for it, I'm going for it.
Wow. Yeah. How many guys hit 300 last year? Not
like
many,
6.
but
Yeah.
I would.
6.
Hey man, I'd love to see it
If
because
Aaron Judge can hit 322, Trey Turner can hit 310 for me or something like that.
and what I want from Trey is not 375 for 6 weeks and then 175 for the next 6.
Yes.
Let's have a nice consistent season from Trey, huh?
Yes.
Listen, I love it. I'm taking Bryson Stott. All right, who's going to lead the Phillies in home runs, Regz?
Schwarber.
How many?
38.
Brian?
I'm going to show you. Well, I'm not going to show you the piece of paper, but I'm going to point to right here where it says on the piece of paper KS 38 home runs. So this is
This is not
I
pre-recorded.
swear,
This is not
people, we did not
pre-recorded,
talk
people.
about
That's
this.
right.
We did not talk about this before we recorded.
That's right.
No.
Right there. KS 38
Nope.
home runs.
They don't even know what I'm asking. So it's the best. Who leaves? I also have Schwarber, by the way. I actually have him over 40. I think 42 or 43 in a contract year. RBIs. Who's the team leader in RBIs, Reg?
Harp.
Got a guess on how many?
Yeah. 110.
Okay. Brian?
Oh, thank God my answer is different here, at least. This is going to get pretty boring. The answer for me is Alec Boehm.
How many?
I have 106. So pretty consistent in the last 2 or 3 years with the RBIs. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities, with the likes of Trey and Bryce on base in front of him.
I also have Alec Boehm, and for one major reason, I think he's pissed off, and I think we're getting career year Alec Boehm this year. I truly believe that. So I'm with you. I got like 115 for Boehmer this year. I have a weird feeling he's gonna get close to 120 because there's a different level to him that we haven't seen and we're about to see. All right, let's turn to the pitching side of things here. Regs, who will lead the Philadelphia Phillies in wins, even though it's not really a stat that I care about?
Yeah. I'm going to say Wheeler. I'm still going to say Wheeler.
How many?
God, how many did he have last year? I don't even know. It's like
15?
Yeah. Let's go with 17.
Okay. Brian?
I want to say Chris Sanchez because I am buying Chris Sanchez this year. And it would not at all surprise me if it turns out to be him. But wins are so fluky now in terms of, run support and defense and, bullpens and things like that. I think I just believe in Wheeler's, the likelihood of him throwing more innings than Sanchez still, between 190 and 200. So I'm still going to go with Zach, and I have him at 16 wins.
Yeah, I'm going with Sanchez, and I have him at 15 wins. This is going to be a weird year for Phillies pitching because I do believe at some point we're going to see a 6-man rotation. And so I do think win totals are going to be a little lower than what we've seen in previous years. 15 might even be high. They're going to be a lot. Wheeler's not going to be happy about it. He'll understand, but he's not going to be okay with it. Same with Nola. These guys need innings shaved off if they want to win in October. They're getting older, and if they want their juice come October, they're gonna have to go 6-man, and I think that's going to impact wins a little bit. All right, bullpen. Regz, who will lead the Phillies in saves? Again, a stat I care very little about.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Romano. I think he's gonna get chances early, and I think the Phils are gonna be looking to win games early. I believe that he's maybe not at 39, maybe what he was doing a few years ago, but I think he's maybe more in the 27, 25 to 27 range. I think other people are going to get some. But I think he's going to pitch well enough that they might stick with him for a while.
Brian?
I'm going to answer this 2 ways. Number one, I agree with Regz that Romano will lead the Phillies in saves. I have him at 18. So I think one of two things is going to happen by the second half of the season. We know that he is coming back from injuries, and I still think it remains to be seen whether he'll be able to, to pitch a complete season. I certainly hope he does, because I think he showed in spring training what he's capable of when he's healthy. He threw the ball great. But I think by the end of the season, someone else is going to be the closer, and I have that as a Ryan Kirkring. I think that he is ready to take that step, and it would not at all surprise me if he does it by the end of the season in September. So Romano will lead the team in saves because I have him being the closer for maybe 2/3 of the season. But whether it's injury or ineffectiveness, I don't think he lasts the full season as closer, or at least I have doubts about it. And I have Kirkring taking over.
I like it. I don't know that I don't know that I have one, if I'm being honest with you, because similarly to me, Topper doesn't necessarily care about that stat. For Topper, it's what's my best matchup and when. And so, I personally I'd love to say Alvarado with the stuff we saw in the spring. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Alvarado is the guy who's going to deploy when he has to face Matt Olson in the seventh inning. And it's your last time through that Braves order, and he just wants to get those three guys out. That's when you're going to use Jose Alvarado. That's typically the way that Rob likes to use his bullpen. I don't know that I have a great guess. I'd kind of be throwing something at a wall, and so I'll say Romano for fun because I want it to be him. But I don't know. All right, this is a fun one, I believe, because I think there are three valid answers here, and I wish there was a fourth. He'll never do it, but I believe there are three valid answers, and I'm curious to see who says what here. Who will have the most games appearing as the leadoff hitter this year?
Oh
Regz?
man, yeah. I'm gonna continue my good juju and say Trey because he's going to have earned it, and they'll be winning games with him up there.
Brian?
I want you to be right, Regs, because I think that's the lineup that I like the most as well. But for me, I'm going to go with Schwarber. I think that is Rob's comfort zone with the lineup. Obviously, it's one that he's used, a lot over the last 3 years. He has talked in the spring about maybe varying the lineup versus righties, going with Schwarbs, maybe with Trey versus lefties. And since there are obviously more right-handed starters than left, I think that means that Schwarber is going to lead off more games, assuming they're all healthy, than anybody else.
So I think Regs, for your reasons, you want it to be him, and Brian echoed that. I'm with you. Brian, I think Topper's comfort level, if they're struggling, it's going to be, let me get Kyle Schwarber in this spot. For me, Bryson Stott. Give me Bryson Stott in the leadoff spot. That is the guy I want so badly hitting leadoff. If Bryson Stott is the player that we all know he can be, he's the perfect leadoff hitter for this team. Perfect. He's absolutely perfect. All right. How many All-Stars will the Phillies have? And who will those All-Stars be? I made a bold prediction on this in last episode. And just as a reminder, for those that did not have the opportunity to listen, my picks were Harper. I had the whole infield essentially, and then Sanchi and Wheels was so I had 6. Regs, who do you got?
I'm going for Harp, Trey, Wheeler, and Sanchez again.
Regs continues to mold the perfect Trey Turner season. Brian, who do you got?
Can you imagine asking this question last year and having the likes of Matt Strom and Jeff Hoffman make the All-Star game? I mean, that you would have been, I don't know. laughed off the show, if nothing else, but wow. So this is harder than it sounds. Um, I there's going to be more than this, but I only have three, and that is Bryce, Trey, and Wheels. Yeah.
Well, hey, we're all manifesting the Trey Turner season, and
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know that there's anything better than that. Okay, let's get to these prospects. When will Andrew Painter make his first start as a Philadelphia Philly? Now, if you're not comfortable giving me an exact date, that's fine. But give me like a month time frame. When will Andrew Painter make his first start as a Philadelphia Philly? Regz?
Late June.
Okay. So before the All-Star break.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Brian?
I love this question. They asked it on the Philly show today, and I believe each of those guys had it in early July. We know that Dave Dombrowski said July-ish for Andrew Painter's debut, but I'm with you, Regs, and I'm even going to go a little earlier than that, because whether it's ineffectiveness from guys in the rotation, whether it's injuries, or whether Andrew Painter is just too damn good to hold back. Jason Stark called him the next Garrett Cole today, by the way, on 97.5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is pretty, out there. It's like maybe we should pump the brakes a little bit. And I'm
Yeah.
as big an Andrew Painter fan as there is. So I have a date for you, and it is June 17th at Miami. So one of the cool things about that is he's from South Florida. So that would give him an opportunity to have friends and family come see his debut. Plenty of good seats available at
Yeah.
Lone Depot Park, or whatever the name of that stadium is nowadays. By the way, they played a tennis tournament down there this week. I don't know if you saw this, in the Marlins Stadium.
Oh my
And
God.
it was like packed. I was like, my God, there's more people here for tennis matches than there are
That's what it
for
looks like with people.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's crazy.
yeah. So anyway, June 17th at Miami will be Andrew Painter's major league debut. Get your tickets now.
All right. I was talking to my brother about this earlier, we got to get on to talk Phillies baseball here soon, but when we were talking today, he asked me this question, and it's sort of why I wrote it down as a question for us. And so he's excited because my brother works at the Iron Pigs. He's excited to see him when he eventually makes his way to AAA before he jumps up here. And we were talking about the innings limit and all that stuff. And I said, Brian, almost to the point that you made, that if he's up there dominating AAA in late May, early June, I don't want to waste his innings in Allentown. Get him up here and let's use those innings at the big league level. Like, I don't want to waste 25, 30 of those innings at AAA if he's just making hitters look stupid night after night, inning after inning. Let's get him here. Now, if he's struggling a little bit, I'm cool pumping the brakes. And also with pumping the brakes, Jason Stark, hit the gas. Let me hear all the comps. I want to know all of the guys that Andrew Painter reminds you of, because this is one thing that I am so excited about for this season is the arrival of Andrew Painter. And in that same breath, the hopeful arrival of Justin Crawford. So that's the next question. It's a yes or no. Will Justin Crawford take over as an everyday player this year? Now, I ask this as a big Brandon Marsh fan. I also ask it as a big Max Kepler hopeful. But I think two things can be very true about both those guys. They can both have success. Three things can be true. They can both have success. They could both flop terribly, or they could both be injured. They're both injury prone players. And there's no, in my head, reason to believe that Justin Crawford can't come up for one of those reasons and steal a job from one of those two guys. So I kind of think that gives you my answer, but I'm curious to know yours. Can this dude come up and not just be here to be the guy who's filling in, but win the everyday job at a spot where this team has been desperate for a guy to win the everyday job? Regs?
I'm not saying he can't. I'm just gonna say not this season.
Okay.
I don't doubt he comes up. Maybe if there is an injury need or something like that. That, you know, again, I think that's a little different than winning the starting job. But I do think, you know, as long as the injuries weren't crazy serious, that Marsh and Kepler would be back to where they would be, even if he was up for, let's say, a month or so. I think there's a real possibility next year that he is, you know, your starting center fielder. I'm gonna say for this, no, this season.
Okay. Brian?
I agree with Regs. I do believe that Justin Crawford will make his major league debut this year with the Phillies. Um, he's 21 years old, and they've promoted him to AAA after just about 40 games in AA. That is an aggressive promotion. He's going to be probably 3 to 4 years below, you know, the typical age of your AAA player now. So he's going to be very young for that league. It's going to be very interesting to see how he adjusts to it. I believe that, you know, he may get off to a slow start, but I can see him just having the aptitude and the ability to pick it up pretty quickly. And by, say, middle of May, you know, get his feet on the ground and get rolling in AAA, showing the kind of ability that he has. Not just to put the bat on the ball, but I think you're going to see more power from him this year. He is filling out physically. You know, he's talked about that, putting on weight this year, and I think, you know, there's going to be some swing changes taking root this year. He's got the power. You know, it's just, you know, getting that power to show up in games is what we need to see from him, and I think we will see more of that this year. I think, like Greg said, it's going to be a question more of opportunity than ability. And I think that if Brandon Marsh and or Kepler were to go down, especially in the second half of the season, and I think it's more likely than unlikely that one of them will, Justin Crawford's going to get that call. Now, if he hits 330 in the let's say Marsh is on the DL for a month and he hits 330 and it's just impossible to keep him out of the lineup, that's a certain scenario that, you know, Rob Thompson, it's probably a good problem to have when you think about it. I don't know that it's going to get to that point. I can see, you know, maybe Marsh pulling a hamstring or something like that, and Crawford getting a couple weeks, but then wanting to go into October having the veteran players playing those playoff games. But I also agree that the organization loves Crawford. They see him as their starting center fielder in 2026. And so we're going to see a lot of him sooner rather than later, but maybe not quite this year.
I want to vehemently disagree with both of you. I'm going to move on because I so badly want him to take the reins of that job. I'm so tired of watching different people play that position that is so important. And I want someone to take the reins of it. I want it to be him. And if it's this year, so be it. I do think the promotion, that aggressive promotion, is sort of a kick in the butt to someone like Brandon Marsh. Like, this guy's here now. He's right behind you. Figure it out. Make the next step. Or he's waiting in the wings if he can get the job done. So let's jump to this. Who will be the biggest surprise of the 2025 season? And I don't care if you're going to go surprise from the extent of it's a positive surprise or a negative surprise. But who do you see as the guy who's going to shock the Phillies fan base the most in 2025? Regs?
I'm going to say Kepler. I think he's the one that if you're just a casual Phillies fan, all you heard was negative when the trade happened. Why a lefty bat? Guy's never played left field, coming off this injury, blah, blah, blah. And then if you're just tuning in maybe 3 times a week, you probably, are expecting the worst out of him based on all the things you've heard. But I think, and knock on wood, he stays healthy. I think he's going to be really good for what the Phillies need. I'm not saying he's like going to be an all-star and, is going to set the world on fire. But I think for what the Phillies need out of that position, getting some more production out of their outfield, I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be really good this year.
Brian?
Well, I agree with you again, Regs, on that one. I have written down on my paper here, my cheat sheet, Kepler, 20 home runs. So, and I think that is exactly what they are looking for from him. I know I just talked in the last segment about the potential of him getting hurt, and it's going to be hard for him to hit 20 homers if he gets hurt for any length of time. But I think the potential is there for him to have a little bit of a rebound season, especially in a lineup where he's not expected to be, one of the major producers like he had to be in Minnesota. He's going to be able to bat, in the lower half of this lineup with maybe a little bit less expected of him. But if he is able to have a healthy run, I see 20 homers out of him. Max Kepler's my answer as well.
So clearly for me, it's Taijuan Walker. I believe
Of
that
course.
this is the year. No, but I'm going to bang the table for a guy that I have talked about here and there on this show. And Regs knows I love him. I think Jose Ruiz is the guy that surprised people this year the most. I really believe in the stuff. I was a fan of his last year. His post All-Star ERA was like sub 2. The guy didn't let anybody on base. Came in some big spots. Topper started to trust him a little bit more. And I do think he takes another step this year. I think he'll surprise people. I think another fair call here would be Jesus Luzardo to the casual fan base, similar to what I'm saying about Max Kepler. There's a large segment of this fan base that has said, well, they're running it back. They didn't do anything. Well, they acquired a really good starting pitcher. And I think he's going to make people turn their heads a little bit as the season gets started here. So those are 2 names. Ignore my Taijuan Walker comment. I'm not serious. But I am very, very serious about Jose Ruiz and Jesus Luzardo. So on the other side of that, if you had to give a stone cold lock for the 2025 season, either a player is going to do this or we know about this is going to happen, I have no doubts, I'd put my mortgage on this, what would that be? So like we have some pretty we have pretty certain things on this Phillies roster. But what is the one thing that you would put the mortgage on, the stone cold lock? Regs?
That we're getting 2 years ago, Bryson Stott. I think he's back.
Wow. Okay. I did not see that coming as your lock.
I think he's back.
I had 3 things that I thought you would say. That
I wasn't
one.
taking the easy route here, but
I appreciate that, Brian.
I love that answer. I hope you're right. And I'm cautiously optimistic in what I'm seeing from Stott, especially the number of pitches that he's seeing and the walks that he's taking, which leads to the potential of him hitting leadoff at some point as well. So that would all come together really great. But in terms of a sure thing on this team, I'm going to go with Mr. Consistent Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola is making 30 starts for this team. He does it every year. Like clockwork. He is, knock on wood, probably the most durable starting pitcher in baseball over the last 8 or 9 years. You can not just pencil him in for 30 starts and 180 innings, put it in pen.
Wow.
And,
love it.
and the value of that is significant. we talk about, starting pitching depth. But when you can put it in pen that you're going to get 30 starts, 180 innings, 190 innings, quality innings too. He's going to be, his ERA will be probably 3.5, give or take. 12 to 15 wins, again, depending on the defense and the run support. But you're going to get a guy who's going to take the ball every fifth day, every sixth day, whatever you ask of him. And he's going to give you professional starts, 80, 85% of the time, and just do it in his own quiet way. I don't think he gets enough appreciation for who he is and what he has meant to this team over the last 8-9 years. He's solid as a rock. Aaron Nola.
I'm gonna go with Bryce Harper in the big moments. Like to me, that is as stone cold of a lock as I've come to find it, as a Phillies fan. Bryce just finds a way in the big moments to make magic happen. And I can't tell you what moment or when that's going to be exactly, but I just know there will be more than a handful of times this season when that team needs him with their backs against the wall and Bryce Harper comes through. It's just who he is. And I do believe more than one of those moments will come in big games in October. All right, 3 more to go. This one, we're going to lighten the mood a little bit. When will Azzy give his first angry rant in 2025? How long until I get on here and negative appears? Regz?
Yeah, you're much better at this than me. So if you gave my Angry Regs tweet till like mid-April, or Angry Regs text message till mid-April, I'm gonna say before June.
Okay. All right. Brian?
Wow. When's Taiwan Walker's first start?
Next week.
Yeah.
Get this guy off the freaking team. All right.
Yeah.
So just for a
Next
laugh, if
Wednesday.
nothing else, I'm going to say April 3rd, Taiwan
I
Walker.
love it.
Next week's pod.
It's a great
There you
choice.
go.
That's fair. All right. 2 more to go. The ones that matter the most. How many wins will the Philadelphia Phillies have in 2025? And where will that put them among not just the NL East, but the National League? Regs?
I'm gonna say 93, and they win the East.
Okay. Brian?
This Regz is one smart guy. I have to say, this right here on this piece of paper. It says 93 wins, first place NL East. And that's going to be good for second overall in the National League behind the Dodgers.
Okay. I've got 94 wins, National League East repeat champions, second to the Los Angeles Dodgers. So, which leads us to, they will have the number 2 seed in the National League. They will have the bye again. They will have to play off of a week off of baseball. Where do you see this Philadelphia Phillies season ending? Will it be in the same dismay that we have experienced the last few years? Will it be at the World Series? Will it be in the NLCS? Will it be in the NLDS? Will it be a parade down Broad Street? Regs, how does it end in 2025?
I'm saying this now. I'm reverse jinxing. So I think, unfortunately, it ends in a loss to the Dodgers in the NLCS.
Brian.
It has been interesting to me seeing how many national writers and broadcasters over the last few days are picking the Phillies to win the World Series. I'm stunned by it. I think that for whatever reason, there is a lot more, whether it's anxiety or doubt or frustration, or call it what you want. Not a lot of locals are picking the Phillies to win the World Series, but when you look at it nationally, they're getting a lot of love, and I don't know how to take that. I think it should probably be encouraging. I should just stop thinking so much and say, oh, that's cool. Maybe they really are good. But you know what, again, I got to go with Regz one more time and say that I have them losing to the Dodgers as well in the NLCS. That Dodgers team is just stacked. And of course, anything can happen in a short series. And it would not shock me, and it probably wouldn't even surprise me if the Phillies are at or close to full strength and beat the Dodgers in a 7-game series. They could do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put a gun to my head, so to speak, I would have to say that the Dodgers win a series with the Phillies in the NLCS and go on. So the season ends in the NLCS, loss to the Dodgers.
All right. So here's what I got, guys. I have the Phillies getting revenge in the NLDS against the New York Mets. I have the Phillies getting revenge in the NLCS against the Arizona Diamondbacks, who I think are going to surprise a lot of people this year with that pitching staff as constructed. I do think, for all the talk of aging Philadelphia Phillies, that Los Angeles team is also getting older too. And they just played a lot of baseball. And some of their best pitchers, all of their best pitchers, are very injury prone themselves. So I do believe there's a world where the Phillies get a chance to cast revenge on two teams that have taken them out of postseason play the last 2 years. And then they go back to the World Series and they beat the Texas Rangers and become the 2025 World Series champions. I picked it as a bold prediction last week. I'm not going to back off of it this week, and I'm not going to back off of it all year. I do believe there's something to national media saying that this team is good enough. I think we, as a regional, local fan base, are still suffering hurt from the last 2 seasons, and it's hard to believe in a team that breaks your heart. But we just watched a football team who broke our heart 2 years ago and came back and were angry, and they won. And I think this Phillies team hears all of the noise locally about we don't believe. Here's all the noise nationally about, well, the Braves are getting healthy and the Mets are a really good team. And because that's out there too. Even with people picking the Phillies, the Mets got a Sports Illustrated cover, right? The Dodgers are getting all the attention for the offseason. And then there's the Phillies, a 95-win team that did what the Dodgers have done for the better part of the last decade. Lost in the playoffs. And I do believe that this Phillies team knows what they have to do this year. They know that what has eliminated them the last couple of years, whether they can put it into practice, they did it in the spring. They showed they can do it. Can they carry it over into the regular season and the postseason? If they can do that and play consistent baseball with their pitching staff and the floor that pitching staff provides for them, I don't know how they lose. I think they stack up with everyone, and I fully believe that. So I appreciate both predictions, and I'd be very okay with another NLCS appearance. But I do believe this team's winning the World Series, and I hope we can come back to this clip in 7 months and have a replay of this.
Me too.
All together.
I'd love nothing more.
Like celebrating the Super Bowl. You think that was fun? Just wait for Azzy celebrating his own prediction on the World Series. That's gonna be another level. All right. Well, Brian, hey man, we appreciate you coming on and talking Phillies baseball. Tomorrow begins the marathon of games, of text messages, of complaining, of celebrating, of watching a team that we love and that has provided us so many wonderful moments, with 7 more months of moments to come. So while anything can happen in a baseball season, Brian, I'm excited to go through it with you and many others like you. thanks for being here tonight, and go Phils, my friend.
My pleasure. Thank you both for having me. And let's get together down at CBP at some point for a beverage or two.
Absolutely.
That would be fun. All
That'd
right.
be fantastic.
Let's do
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
Hey,
thanks,
thanks
man.
for having me, guys. All right.
I mean, it's always such a fun conversation with Brian. He's like one of the most knowledgeable baseball fans that I know. And his general temperament always calms me. Like always up here. Like this is where I'm at constantly. And Brian is like here. Like he's like the stable force. A lot of things for me in that conversation. A lot of things that he said, a lot of things that you said that stand out. Anything from that conversation that will stick with you and maybe keep you up to date as this season progresses toward us.
Well, first of all, who knew you could be that locked in with a person after not speaking to them for so long? Me and him very in sync on how we feel this season is going to go. I think the best part is that he's watched a lot of these prospects. Like he's literally seen them with his own eyes play
Yes.
in baseball games. You know, we can I might catch some highlights here and there or check a box score or two, but I don't know a lot of people who have had their eyes on some of these guys for so long. So it's great to get his opinion, even on guys that are all of a sudden now in AAA, you know, like a Crawford. It wasn't that long ago that he was watching them, you know, in single A. And it's just it's always cool to get his perspective on that kind of stuff because he can literally speak to it from like getting eyes on these guys, not just looking up pipeline, you know, or like prospect lists and watching some tape. You know, he's seen these guys play real baseball games.
Yeah, I really enjoyed his takes on Chasse and Kemp specifically. I'm a big Moises
Oh my
Chasse
goodness,
fan.
you lit up when he said that. I saw it.
Yeah, I love this kid. I do believe he is going to be a really solid middle of the rotation arm for the Phillies. It's exciting to think about their rotation in like 3 or 4 years could have all of Andrew Painter, Chris Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, and Moises Chasse.
Yeah.
All young and very consistent arms that are nasty. and it'll have an aging Nola at that point, but you know, sitting at the bottom of your rotation as a veteran is not
right.
It's Jamie Moyer essentially.
Yeah.
Jamie Moyer essentially. So I love that. And I did love the Otto Kemp pick. I wasn't sure if he was going to go with Rincones or not. And when he went with Kemp, the reasoning made so much sense.
Yeah.
It's a dude that you need to have to win baseball games and a guy that's going to be in the organization for a bit now. He's not anything overly special. He's a guy who does all the things okay.
Yeah, right.
Master of none, but really good at all. So that struck me, and it also, I know how high he is on Justin Crawford. So my really strong opinion on Crawford and taking over the job. It's nice to have someone who I know has a very high opinion on the kid come in and say, not yet. And the same goes for Painter. You know, I read the Jason Stark tweet today and I was like, give it to me. Give me all of the comps. And to hear him say, pump the brakes, like, let's give the kid time. It is good. It's refreshing for me as someone who jumps to those conclusions and gets so excited to have the adult in the room tell me, chill a little bit. Like the voice of reason is always something that's helpful. I'm also very impressed that both of you didn't think that I'd be calm like even through May. Like you're like, before June. He's like, next week.
Yeah. I gave you a little bit of time.
I might be to him what you are to me with text messaging.
Maybe he might be that calm that somehow,
Yeah.
God, I'm a psycho.
Okay,
I'm a
like-
psychopath if that's the case. Good Lord.
Well, I will tell you, there are times where Brian, and now you can ask me, where Brian texts me something, and I'm like, man, that's smart. I got to text Regz.
That's fantastic.
like he'll say something to me. I'm like, gosh, that's so smart. So Brian, sometimes I don't like plagiarize it. I make it my own.
Well,
But it's how much I
now I
respect
want to
you.
see a source at the bottom. I want to see source.
Yeah,
Brian Doc
source
Hamilton.
Brian Doc Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. So let's do a little state of the Phillies here as we wind down this opening day episode. Look, we kind of hit on it there at the end. I sort of went on my tangent already. I think that as a fan base, a lot of people are disconnecting themselves out of fear of what has happened the last 3 years. Look, you get to a World Series, you're up 2-1, you're at home, you lose the next two, including a no-hitter, and then you go to Houston and you lose. Then you get to the NLCS the next year. Everything's lining up for you. You're up 2-0 going on the road. You can only win one. And you come home, a place where you've dominated, and you lose both. And then last year, you get your biggest rival. You get a lead-off shore bomb. Wheeler pitches an absolute gem. And a bullpen that boasted 2 All-Stars melts down. An offense that scored like more runs than 27 other teams in baseball melts down. And with it, a fan base melts down. And I think, Regz, that there are a lot of people still living with that pain that aren't ready to trust this Phillies team again. And I just want to be that person. I put out a TikTok today. I haven't opened it up since I put it out because I'm terrified of all the anger that's probably going to come my way. But I said, like, baseball is a game where you win 50 games, you lose 50 games. So when you come to me and you say, well, they were mediocre, they 51-51 last year after that hot start. Well, yeah, they did really well in the other 60. And that's how baseball works. You're always going to lose 50 games. You're going to win 50 games. If by accident you're going to win 50 games, unless you're the Chicago White Sox. But those other 60 games really matter.
Yeah.
They just happened to win a whole bunch of them up front.
Right.
The postseason sucked. I get it. I threw all of my hats into the corner of my closet. They're all still there. I was so angry. I refused to wear anything Phillies pretty much until today. But baseball is like, the sport is such a representation of like what it is. It's like a new chance every single day. The season itself, as it starts, brings this like renewed hope in your team. And every day they get a new chance to win a game. It's so different than the other sports. And I do believe in this team, and I do believe they're going to win a lot of games. And if you're not ready to believe that, I'll save some room for you. Like, I'm good with that. But I do think that there's like this false bravado of like, they're just not good. They didn't do anything, so I don't care. When it's really like, I just don't want them to hurt me again.
Yeah, it's always tough as a Philadelphia fan base when you have, like, again, a lot of people, I hope, don't forget how magical 22 was. Like, just a miracle ride that no one expected.
Time of my life.
And it was, I mean, again, at the time, the Eagles are what they are, right?
Mhm.
The Sixers are still the Sixers. And this miracle run, and after 11 years of not even making the playoffs, was the most unbelievable like release of emotion for this baseball team and this fan base. And you just like, that's all people want to get back to. And I think especially now with what the Eagles have been able to do over the past couple of years, you sort of saw them complete the redemption arc, the Eagles, right? They get there, they lose a close one. You lose to like that team that's always there, a la the Houston Astros, and a team that if you look at it, you're like, look, they were the better team. That is what it is. It was an unbelievable run. I'm so happy it happened. And then you get the huge disappointment of what happened to the Eagles in the second half of last year and that Diamondbacks series. Like, it's crazy how similar it is. And it was devastating. But the Eagles came back the next year and were like, this is not happening again. And the Phillies came back and, yeah, they won the NL East for the first time in a long time. Again, got to 95 wins, the most wins they've had in a long time. But they couldn't put it together. They couldn't finish it off. And I think now everyone just gets in Philadelphia fan mode, where how can we be better after 3 years of getting worse? You know what I mean? In the playoffs, how can we keep thinking we're going to do better when we've given them time, right? We've given this team enough time. And there is still, and I think it's that way because there's still, the expectation is still the same. The expectation for this baseball team is to win a World Series. And I just think when you combine those two things, you kind of get what we have right now, which is a kind of like you said, everyone's turtling up to shield themselves from the disappointment they see off on the horizon. But it's still a really good team. If you look at all these projections and all these things, they're in the top 3 in most of them. In some way, shape, or form. And that's in a division that has the 2 other teams in this division take up the next 2 slots in that 3 or 4 best teams in baseball. So it is a weird spot locally with how much of a difference it is between some of the national things that we've been seeing. And Brian even spoke to this. It's just one of those things where I think we're at the point where it's you said it perfectly. No, everyone's shielding themselves from being hurt. Like, we don't want this team to hurt us. We love these guys. We love this team. We love the dynamic that they've put together. We love that after 11 years of not even going to the playoffs, that this is the team we got with the superstar that chose us, right? With the superstar that chose us. And we desperately want it to happen.
The point you made about, you said it nicely. It was, it's gotten worse in the postseason, and Topper has been very direct in talking about this. Yeah, we've gotten eliminated a round earlier every year. We've also won more games every year. They become a better regular season team every year, and I know that people don't care about that. Like, I'll get my new NL East banner on Monday when I go, and that's fine. Like, cool. Thank you. I'll bring it down here and it will be in my basement. Like, cool. And everybody else will get theirs. And some people will leave it under their chair. I don't care. And there is something to winning an NL East championship. There is. That does matter. However, there's one banner we all want to raise. And let me just be very clear. These guys all want to raise that banner too.
Yeah.
probably more than we do, believe it or not. You know, I hear all these things about Trey Turner being out on the short field and the small fields with like Paco Figueroa every day earlier than like the minor league guys are out there. Like he clearly wants to do better. You know, we hear about Brandon Marsh and Max Kepler working out with Kevin Long in Arizona all off season. They clearly want to be better, right? I mean, Bryce Harper hasn't had a carb in 6 years. like these guys want to win. JT Realmuto wants to win. Kyle Schwarber wants to win. Nick Castellanos played 162 games last year. Zach Wheeler has to be yelled at to not pitch every 5th day. These dudes want to win. And I'm not saying that we're not going to go through like our ups and downs this season, and we're not going to get frustrated. We're not going to get annoyed, and it's going to happen. And in a 162 game season, it happens. What I am going to try and ask people to do is not have a football mentality with baseball. Like let's breathe. If you know they're 7-1 and they lose to Atlanta, like I understand it's a division rival, but like it's, you know, they're gonna lose series.
Yeah.
Just don't make it a habit, right? Don't lose consecutive series to the Marlins and the A's. Like
Right.
that's the stuff that's gonna drive us nuts. What we've asked for on this show, and I think what we'll ask for one last time before we sign off, is a consistent baseball season. Just give us consistency.
Yeah.
If you want to get off to a red hot start, go for it. Go for it. You want to be 25 games over 500 in the middle of June? Cool. I'd love that too.
Yeah.
Let's just not turn it off when we get to
Right.
the All-Star break
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
Let's not coast, because that's the one thing that I'm worried about with this year. A lot of the conversation at spring training centered around this belief that as long as you're playing good ball when you get to the playoffs, you're fine. As long as you're hot, we got to get hot at the right time. We got to get hot at the right time. How about we just play good baseball all year?
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know. How about we just play? I mean, the Dodgers weren't red hot in the
Right.
playoffs last year. The Yankees weren't red hot in the playoffs. It's just like, let's just play good baseball. Like, let's play good baseball for 6 months. And then when the postseason starts, keep playing good baseball.
Yeah.
Have good at bats, play good defense, pitch well,
Yeah.
score runs. The game is a lot simpler than we give it credit for. It's not easy, but the concept of winning is simple. Play good defense, pitch well, and have good at bats, and you'll win games.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's it. Be consistent.
Yeah. I mean, that's my biggest thing. We've talked about this plenty, and I don't need to go into it a bunch more, but it's just sports. There are very few teams in the history of sports that can flip the switch. And if there have been, they're some of the all-time great teams that have ever existed.
Mm-hmm.
You have not proven to be one of those, and I don't think anybody's asking you to be one of those.
No, I don't want you to be.
Just be consistent. Don't ease up. Don't take your foot off the gas. I'm not saying you have to be 120% all the time, but just how about 80% all season? Right? Not some 90 and 95 and then, oh, we're at 50, right? It's like, no.
Or 20.
Right. Whatever it is, just let's be at 80, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can do it. You guys can do it. You have the team to be able to do it. Don't ease up. Don't take your foot off the gas. Don't coast. Don't play down to your opponents. Kick the ass of the teams you should. Play hard against the better teams. That's all we can ask for.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't decide that
We
it's
understand.
not worth it.
We understand it's a long season.
Mm-hmm.
We do. We know that. And we know that it comes with its ups and downs. We know that it's not going to be perfect the whole way through. I don't expect an 120 win baseball
Yeah,
team. That'd
right.
be awesome. I don't expect that. I
Mhm.
expect that if anywhere, it's going to come out in LA.
Yeah.
I don't expect it of this Phillies team, nor should anybody. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility or expectation to hope for 92 to 98 wins this year. I
Mhm.
believe this team is capable of that. I think their floor just with starting pitching makes them capable of that. Add into that I believe they have one of the deepest lineups in all of baseball. It's crazy that Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh are going to be hitting 8 and
Yeah.
like that's insane. That's insane. There are a lot of lineups in baseball, a lot of fan bases in baseball that would kill for one of those guys to be hitting toward the top of their order. More likely Stott than Brandon, but my point remains. Like there are a lot of fan bases that would love to have those dudes hit anywhere else in their order, and the Phillies have him hitting 8th and 9th.
Yeah.
JT Realmuto was hitting 7th. Guy hit 17 home runs last year. It's a really good offense. You know, Nick Castellanos, Max Kepler hitting 5th and 6th in whatever order they're in. You got future Hall of Famer Bryce Harper in the middle of your lineup, who I hope is going to have the best season of his career. Alec Boehm. A rejuvenated Trey Turner, maybe?
We can only hope.
And a contract year Kyle Schwarber. Look, all I know is tomorrow at 4:05, Phillies baseball starts again. Zach Wheeler will take the mound. The Phillies that will start a 162-day journey that we will cling to all too tightly and breathe every breath with every pitch. It's so funny how my heart will be pounding tomorrow.
I know.
That first pitch.
I know.
Almost as much as it will be in October.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's one of 162. And you know, I said this before we started recording with Brian. And I'm going to say it for everybody here. The result tomorrow matters just as much as the result of a day game on a Thursday in July. It's one of 162. So let's not get too high or too low based off of what we see tomorrow. And I'm mostly speaking to myself. With that being said, Regz, happy opening day, buddy.
Right back at you, pal.
Anything else for the good of the people?
No, just
All right.
I love you, Phillies. Can't wait to have you back in my life every night.
I know. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for like the random week in like July where every single night it's like, no, the Phillies are on in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so perfect. And it's happening every day from now through October.
Yep.
So get ready, everyone. We're very excited. If you have not done so, please click subscribe on the YouTube channel below. Make sure that you go to wherever you get your podcasts and follow us there. Go ahead on to social media at the Mic Drop 5, at Big Regz with a Z, at the Phixated Pod on Twitter. You can go over to Facebook at the Phixated fan page, TikTok at the Phixated Pod, and over on Instagram, I believe it's at the Phixated Pod there too, Regz.
Phixated podcast.
Phixated podcast. I got to load some videos on there. Maybe I'll spend some doing that over the next few days. Try and catch people on there. And listen, I had a great idea, but I am going to sent to me by a listener of the show, Randy, of how to get Jose Alvarado coffee with.
Oh, okay.
He said I should learn a new word in Spanish every day until Jose Alvarado agrees to have coffee with me. So that's an idea. We might stew on that one. I like it. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Although I might be cheating a little bit. I took like 5 years of Spanish over the course of high school and college. So could be a little cheating there, but not
A
against
refresher
it.
course then.
A refresher course is what we will say. All right, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your opening days tomorrow. We will be back next week with another episode here, recapping the first 6 games of Phillies baseball and looking ahead to a possible NLCS matchup with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. Make sure that you tell someone close to you that you love them. We love you. Go Phils. Can you
Go
please get us that World Series?
Phillies!
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there and way out of here! The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.